Welcome to Witness to History. As we enjoy all of these wonderful pictures of our guests that have been witness to history in the last 3 years. Can you imagine? You see the banner has gotten a little bit crowded. And so our pictures for Witness to History are filling up almost the whole page. John, looks like you still have a little bit of space in anticipation of more of our guests. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Witness to History, this gorgeous Sunday evening, July 16th, 2023. I hope all is well with everyone. And we're going to have a wonderful opportunity tonight to have a conversation with a very long-time resident of our Moreland community, Mr. David Owens. Hello there, David. How are you this evening?
I'm fine.
Good.
Doing okay.
Yes, good. For those who have attended our gatherings on Zoom in the past, or for anybody who's new with us this evening, Witness to History is one of our many wonderful ways in our Moreland network to get to know each other better. And you're all in for a treat this evening because we have someone with us who's contributed so much to the Shaker community and so far beyond. So we really will see firsthand how David Owens has witnessed history and how so many other people have shared in his story. But as always, I want to thank a few people. I'd like to thank Theo Darden, who helps to promote our programs from the city, Megan Hayes, who always posts our Witness to History interviews on the Shaker Public Library site for everybody to see from now until forever. Hey there, Megan. Megan's always with us. Thank you, Megan. Thank you. And of course, an enormous amount of gratitude to John Dutton, my collaborator and partner on Witness to History. Thank you, John. And thank you, Kevin, for being here. For those who don't know, Kevin Kay and I had a conversation 3 years ago now. 3 years in 2020, August of 20, well, even before August of 2020, to talk about having an opportunity for us to get together during COVID. And here we are, 2023, still going strong. But without further ado, I'd like to say again, welcome, David Owens. Welcome to you this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being our guest this evening. So we have a wonderful time to talk and, great pictures. And for people who can go back into the history of our guests, this is David Owens at a time in his life where he has a story to tell. So what I would like to start off with, as I always do, is to ask, when and why did you move to Moreland, into the Shaker community?
So we moved to Moreland because in 1966, we were living in the Glenville neighborhood, and my father and mother were concerned about all of the things that were going on in surrounding communities, the riots and other things. And so my dad and mom decided to move us from Glenville to Shaker.
Okay.
And so it wasn't so much a decision that I had made. It was one that I, as a child in the family, I got in the big truck and we drove up 105 to Milverton, and I was fascinated by this big house and tree-lined streets. And so I was brought into this great community by parents who were seeking a better quality of life for my brothers and sisters and I.
Now, where did you go to school when you lived in Glenville?
I was in preschool at, is it St. Philomena? School on St. Clair, I want to say. It was a Catholic school, that much I remember.
I think I heard somebody who may be familiar with it.
Aloysius.
St. Aloysius.
See there?
St. Aloysius. As a
Aloysius.
6-year-old, 5-year-old, I just knew it was a Catholic school with nuns who wore full habits, and the Reverend Mother had a ruler.
And had a ruler. Okay. Important memories. So what grade were you in when you moved to the Moreland neighborhood?
So I was actually in preschool, first grade, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually went to St. Cecilia's.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Mm-hmm.
walked up from my house, I walked up Westbury to St. Cecilia's, and that was the school that I attended much of my elementary school years.
Mm-hmm. Can we go back to the picture, John? Because this picture, tell us your parents. What are your parents' names?
So my mother, that's Effie Mae
Mm-hmm.
Owens, and my father, Vanderbilt Owens. That was them young when they were courting. And
Yeah.
then them sitting on the steps of the house that my father was always seeming to work on. So that's them early on, maybe a year or two after we moved into Shaker. And then the picture in the middle is them. They were a little bit older and they used to go to different affairs. My father was a mechanic in a motor pool for Arthur Haddon. He also drove cabs. He did a lot of blue collar work. He was a custodian superintendent at Temple Emmanuel. And so there were always functions, events. And so that picture of them when they were a little bit older was them going out celebrating as they often did.
Nice, nice, nice. And this should be a classic picture for the, Moreland History Library, because that's your house. That's the house you live in now. And I
That's
love
the
the ladder. What did you say? Your father was probably fixing windows or something?
He was probably putting up storm windows. I remember he put up storm windows because when we first moved, you'd open the windows and everything would fly in. Flies, bees, birds, because the windows, they didn't have storm windows. And then everybody was trying to keep up with everybody else in the neighborhood. So I think Mr. Griggs that lived next door at 3371 put up a few storm windows. And so they were always in competition. They were good friends, but always in competition, fixing up their houses. So
Oh,
he was more than likely putting up storm windows.
uh-huh, uh-huh. So I was taking care of their houses.
Mm-hmm.
The picture. I love the picture. And I think we have a picture of you when you may have been a youngster. Here you are.
So that's me on my favorite red and white tricycle.
Yes. We're all tricycles, red and white.
The ones that I remember they were, or either you had the red and white fire truck that you could pedal, pedal
Yeah.
car with the little ladder on the side.
Little
But
red
my
wagons too. The wagons were red.
radio flyer,
Yeah,
yes, solid
absolutely.
red with the white right. So
Mhm.
I believe I had one of those as well. But I
Okay.
was probably in this picture on the tricycle 3 or 4, and maybe not much older than that in the picture on the left. The picture on the left is me in our house on Tacoma, and that was me in the backyard with my pacifier in my mouth. And so you all may be wondering how the blue peace sign was on that black and white photo. I think when I was maybe 8 or 9, I drew that peace sign on my shirt trying to be relative to
Okay. You knew at an
later
early
60s.
age. You knew at an early age where you were going. That's wonderful. So tell us about your family. Tell us about your family and your parents and your siblings.
So my family, my mother and father were wonderful people. They had a passion for children.
Mhm.
And we had a lot of children in and out of our home on Tacoma. And then when we moved into Shaker on Milverton, they were foster parents, foster and adoptive parents. And so they provided emergency shelter for small children. So at any point, there were children coming in at any time of the night. We could go to sleep, and there'd be the 4 or 5 of us in the bedroom, and we'd wake up and there'd be a new baby in the house or a toddler in the house. And so they had a passion for children. They worked through Catholic charities as foster and adoptive and emergency shelter parents. And so out of the 29 recorded foster children that they had, there were more than that. But there was a proclamation that my mother got when she passed, and it had record of 29. But out of the 29 plus, there were 7 of us that were adopted into the Owens family. So my mother had 1 natural daughter, and all of my siblings were adopted by my mother and father. And so I grew up in a home with lots of brothers and sisters. And so in the pictures we have, actually the picture on the top left is when my mother had passed, and so all the family had gathered. So that's me to the left of my father. That's my younger brother, Lamont, to the right, Navy, retired Navy veteran. That's my older brother who is now deceased. He was an Army veteran. And then that's my cousin brother, Clifford, who came up from Alabama when he was about 14 or 15 to live with the family, and he was raised as a brother in the household. And so all of us attended Shaker schools and are Shaker graduates. All of us are military, and so I was in the Navy. My dad was Purple Heart veteran. He was wounded in the war. He had a shell blow up in his chest. My younger brother was a submariner. My brother Eddie was infantry, and my cousin brother Clifford was also in the infantry. And then the top picture on the right are my sisters and a cousin. So that's my sister Lois, who is a natural daughter to my mother. In the middle is my cousin Deborah. And then to the right is my older sister Brenda, who's also deceased. She died of a stroke maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And then in the bottom picture, that is us at my grandmother's house on Hildana.
Okay. Yes.
Eating dinner. Yes, my grandmother lived on Hildana, and so the family, we would go over there and eat. So that's my mother standing to the left. That's me photo bombing. Right under her, my brother Eddie, my sister Brenda, who's also in the upper picture, my sister Ann, my cousin Donnie, that's Deborah, my cousin Dana, and my aunt Laura is standing next to my mother. So big family.
Wonderful.
Big family.
Wonderful family. So you told us a little bit about the fact that your father and your brothers have been in the military, but let's go back a little bit earlier than that to some of the things you did as a young person in your work life. How did that start off when you were working, as many young people did at that time, with certain jobs around the neighborhood? Tell us about that.
So I started working at the age of 9 because my parents didn't believe in allowance.
Okay.
They were faith-based folks, and so we were always told, if man don't work, man doesn't eat. If a child don't work, a child doesn't get snacks and toys and those kinds of things. So I started working at the age of 9 for the Cleveland Press.
Okay.
Cleveland Press paperboy.
Who remembers the Cleveland Press, folks? Okay, some people remember the Cleveland Press.
Afternoon. Yeah, it was afternoon publication. So at 9, I got a paper route. You're supposed to be 10, but my parents told a mistruth so that I could start delivering papers at 9. So my route was around Milverton. It was Milverton, a couple of houses on Sutton, Van Aken, and a few houses on Ashby between Van Aken and Milverton. Probably about 30 customers. So had a paper bag and did that for about a year, and then heard about the Plain Dealer. And the Plain Dealer paid you a little bit better than the Cleveland Press. So at 10, I got a Plain Dealer paper route and delivered papers on Westbury, a few on Ashby, and I had a couple of customers on Milton. Had probably about 45 Plain Dealer customers. And so we delivered papers, and back in the 60s, you used to could go to your neighbors and get their team bottles and Pepsi bottles, Hires root beer bottles. And so we collected bottles, and we took the bottles to the Pick and Pay that was Pick and Pay right there on shelf. And we would get our pennies and go down to Manny's Delicatessen, 154th and Kinsman, and get that penny candy, those banana flips. Yes, the now and laters. Now and laters, slow pokes, the little caramel candy with the marshmallow in the middle.
Oh, I love them.
Yes, yes. And on occasion,
Yeah,
the hostess, yes, yes, the hostess fruit pies, and so we earned money to go to Manny's Delicatessen. I think there was at one point a Franklin ice cream on the corner of Ashby, 154th and Kinsman. And so we would go in and get scoops of ice cream. And so we did that up until about the age of 14. And so my brothers and cousins were also paper boys, paper route carriers. I guess I got to be politically correct. Can't say paper boys, but we were paper boys. And then I found that I could make money cutting grass.
All right.
So at 14, I started cutting my neighbor's grass. I would charge about $20.
Okay.
And at 14, I figured out it would be cheaper for me to pay my friends to cut the grass, and I would just take something off the top for them to use my mower and my gas. So I would pay my friends $8, and I kept 12.
Right.
And so at 14, I was an entrepreneur. I had maybe 10 customers who were also my paper route customers that I cut grass for, delivered papers. Also, so I don't know if any of you remember, they used to have the Christmas cards, and you could go door to door and sell Christmas cards. I did that. And we also sold Cub Scout popcorn. So a lot of things to make money. At 15, I was probably making $240, $250 a week.
Oh my goodness. Oh,
so my dad was proud of me because I was a hustler. Yes.
I see. Goodness. Wonderful. Yes. Wow. You can influence a lot of other young folks around these.
Well, I did. And made money off of them too.
Okay.
But they were using my mower and my gas. So I figured.
Yes. Right. You figured it all out then.
I had it figured out.
You mentioned Cub Scouts.
Yes.
Here we are. Tell us about it. You were in the Cub Scouts too. Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts?
Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. We started at the Cub Scouts at St. Cecilia, Pack 400. And this was from 1971. So I was 11 years old. We had the blue and gold banquet. And this was at a time when people that looked like me, we really weren't represented in the publications and the things that would promote scouting, but we had a lot of young African-American Black children who were part of scouting, Girl Scouts, Cub Scouts. And so it was a great experience for me to earn badges. A lot of my friends in the neighborhood were also Cub Scouts. We had an opportunity to be in fellowship and to learn the skill sets from scouting. And I believe one of the African-American authors said that those organized, structured groups like Scouts had value in the upraising of African-American children. And so we had some great memories and experiences through the scouting genre. And we eventually moved to Moreland. So the pack moved to Moreland School. And so we were meeting in Moreland from St. Cecilia's. I think at one point we met a few times at Eastview Church right there on Menlo, but then we ended up at Moreland. And so there was a lot of civic things that we did in the community. The picture on the right, the black and white, are Scouts planting on Hildana, flowers around the trees. And so it was exciting for us to get the flats and then go up there with our garden tools and plant decorative flowers, the ones that, they come and plant them every year. But it was a community activity and it had value.
Absolutely. And look at the Zalud Oldsmobile in the background there. Many of you may remember. Well, actually, that was Shaker Auto that just was torn down recently. For the car wash that's going to go there. Look at the cars, though. I love the cars.
Yeah, that probably was again the early 70s. And so there was a lot. We really look forward to the civic work through the scouting. You know, we participated every year in the Memorial Day parade. That's what you see on the lower left.
Yes.
Is our pack. I think that's my mother to the left, and Miss Perkins, who used to live on, I want to say, Menlo or Pennington. They were the Cub Scout leaders.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so that was us marching in the parade. And then the upper picture, I'm not sure if that was the chief. And I can't remember if Walt Ugrinnick was chief then or not, but that's a picture of the Lee Road intersection with one of the old Dodge Furies that had the highway patrol wings on them. And so we were in preparation for the parade. I just thought that was a great picture.
Yes.
And that's the building that seemingly we cannot keep a coffee shop in. And the space, the parking lot to the right, I was sharing with John and Donna, to the listeners and the viewers, that that was before they built that senior facility there to the left. And so it's really taken us back to a time before there was economic development in the city, in a time when we really relied primarily on tax revenue for things that the city would do.
Things have changed. Are there troops in Shaker now? Does anybody know? Are we still doing?
Onaway has a Cub Scout pack, and I think a Girl Scout pack at Onaway.
Okay, that's wonderful. Yeah, so what do we have up here next, John? All right, into the military. So you graduated from Shaker High School.
So I graduated in 1978 from Shaker Heights High School. All of my friends were getting letters of acceptance from colleges, universities, and around November, December, I still hadn't gotten in. I had applied to quite a number of universities and had became discouraged. So in December, I told my mother and father, I want to go in the Navy.
Okay.
So I enlisted in the Navy, signed up in December. By January, I was sworn in the delayed entry program. And wouldn't you know, in February, I started getting my letters from the universities of acceptance.
Of course.
But it was too late. I had signed up for the military, and that's not something you can get out of.
Right.
So I was Uncle Sam's, you know, property, so to speak. And so January, February of, 1978, I enlisted. And so the picture you have here in the upper left is me with my company in Great Lakes, Illinois. So that's me out front with the sword, saber, I should say. I would probably be exercised for calling it a sword, but it was a saber. And so interesting story I shared with John and Donna. When I went in basic training, I was made the recruit chief petty officer. RPOC is what they called us. That's a picture of me with the little anchor on, because we were waiting for our company to be formed. And at that time, it could be 2 or 3 weeks before you got enough guys in to form a company. So we were in the barracks, and I noticed the fella had his, he had a hat on. And I told him, I said, you need to uncuff, you take your hat off. Because my parents had raised me, when a gentleman comes inside, they take their hat off. That was back when, gentlemen were appropriate. And so one of the petty officers overheard me telling this older gentleman to take his hat off. And he asked me, why did I tell him to do that? And I told him because I was raised that a gentleman takes his hat off when he enters a building. And they said, well, you're going to be the recruit chief petty officer. And I said, I respectfully declined. That was not something I wanted to do. And so they turned around and looked at me, and they said, we're telling you you're going to be the recruit chief petty officer. Now, I was 18, freshly 18. I went in the day after my 18th birthday to basic training. And I told the chief petty officer again, I said, well, I would rather not do that. I think someone else older would be a better person. So they called me into their office, and they told me that I didn't understand in that man's Navy that when a recruit was told what to do, that that's what they did. And so memory serves me correct. They told me that to get my mind right, I was going to exercise. And so they told me to assume the position. I got down and I did push-ups. I probably got through about 15. Now, I was a thick fella, a husky. And so I did about 15. They asked me to stand up. They said, had my mind gotten right? And I said, well, sir, I respectfully decline. I don't think that this is something I should be doing. You know, all these guys are older than me. They won't respect me. And so they said I needed some more exercise. And then they told me to begin again. And so I got back down and struggled to do maybe 5 or 6 more. They saw me struggling. They told me to get back up. They said, are you ready to do this yet? I told them no. And so I got down. And when I got down that second time, I didn't ask for permission to begin. And so they made me get up and they said, request permission to begin, recruit. So they made me go down a third time. And so I got down a third time, probably did 6 or 7 more. My belly was rubbing the floor and I got up and they said, you didn't request right to begin. And I said, I didn't request right. They said, you didn't say sir. And so the 4th time I went down, they took a small file cabinet. They put the file cabinet on my back and I couldn't get up with that file cabinet on my back, and I gave in. Now that was at a time when you could be hazed in basic training. Now today's military is different. You know, if they were to put a file cabinet on the back of an 18-year-old and something were to be said, then they would be in trouble. But at the time that I went in, you could be punished for not doing what you were asked to do. And the thought process was, Donna, that if you were captured, it would be a lot worse than that. So I learned discipline at the age of 18 in the Navy.
My goodness.
And then the last picture on the right was me when I was in A school. I went to firefighting school. I was a shipboard firefighter. I was a plumber and a welder. So I learned to weld underwater. So learned a lot in the military, was a boiler technician, got a boiler's license, and then got injured while in training and was discharged as a result of that injury, honorably discharged.
Okay, wow. What a story. What an impact on life. My goodness. So we are going, I think, to where are we, John? Okay. Your work, some of your work.
Some of my work.
Some of your work. I was looking over your bio before we got together. I was like, okay, I could read this paragraph and people would be like, who did you say he is and who did he work for? Okay, tell us about this.
So I've done a lot of things. Prior to this, I worked for the City of Shaker in Public Works. I started as a custodian. I was driving a truck for George Klein News. I was injured, and as a result of being injured, I couldn't drive a truck. My back and I had some disc compressed. I was crushed by a door. And so I was off work. I couldn't work and went back to the paper route. And so I was delivering papers. I was pulling a wagon, delivering papers. And one of the superintendents saw me delivering papers. And he said, if you'll get up every morning and deliver papers, I know you'll do well. So he wanted to hire me for waste collection, to drive a scoop.
Okay.
But because of my background in hospitality, housekeeping, management, they ended up hiring me to be a custodian over in the service department. And so I did that job for several years. They had an opportunity for me to bid on a job in the yard. I had to work every weekend to be a yard utility man. Nobody wanted the job because it was every weekend, but I took it because it allowed me to learn how to run every piece of equipment in the service yard. So I was certified as a backhoe operator, front end loader, street sweeper, rear wheel street sweeper. I got my CDL. I could drive a tanker truck. I did all of that. And then St. Luke's Hospital called me to come back to work with them, and I went to see the mayor, Mayor Mearns, and told her that I was going to be leaving. And she said, well, she didn't want me to leave. She didn't feel the city should give up on me. And they wanted to create a position. So they created a position for me as assistant to the superintendent of public works. And so I was Hubert Bobo's assistant.
Yes,
And helped him with quite a bit of the paperwork and computer technology. I actually wrote the what do they call it? The ADA plan for the city.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the door pulls and all of that, the ramps, I did all of that work for the
Oh,
city.
okay.
And so I did that for a number of years, and then went to school for a degree in law enforcement. And so I went to Cal Community College. I graduated with my law enforcement certification. And these are pictures of me after I took over Shaker Square security, moved it from about 10 or 12 person security department to a state certified private police department through HUD. So we went from about 15 officers to 230. And I had state certified security officers. I also had police officers from Cleveland Police, Shaker Heights Police, CMHA, Cuyahoga County Sheriffs. And we patrolled in the City of Cleveland Empowerment Zone. And so we protected the federal investment in the Empowerment Zone under Mike Whyte. So Mike Whyte always called me his private police chief. So this is a picture of us in Shaker Square in our corporate offices. We had our own radio frequency, and we dispatched and answered over 10,000 calls a year for the city of Cleveland, what they call quality of life issues. And so I traveled around the country telling police departments how they can add this component to their police department to handle quality of life police.
Don't we need you now?
Yeah, I've talked to Mayor Weiss. We've had a few conversations.
Okay.
We've had a few conversations.
Sure, very good, very good. And for those of you who don't know, you're on the Neighborhood Economic Development Committee and probably many other things that you do in Shaker. We'll continue the conversation. So you have the mayor's ear, that's for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we have another photo, I think. Okay, so you're, okay, we can share what it is that I realized when I saw this photo.
All right,
go right ahead. The one in the top left.
So interestingly enough, the world is a small place. Through most of my employment, there is some civic component to the work that I did. So most recently, I am director of environmental services for Marymount Hospital in the Cleveland Clinic system. And so my involvement at Marymount, I am also the co-chair of the Diversity and Inclusion Council at Marymount Hospital. And I also serve on the Retention Council at Marymount Hospital. But maybe about 3 weeks ago, the Enterprise Cleveland Clinic wanted to do a men's health fair. Some of you remember Dr. Motlin used to do that. And then when he left, he transposed that over to Metro. But the work of men's minority health is very important. And so at the Langston Hughes facility down in the Fairfax neighborhood, they had us, all of the fraternal organizations represented the men came out, and we provided community support for health screenings and vaccinations and educational seminars, cooking. And so the Sigmas, we handed out the meals to the over 80 individuals that came to this men's health fair. And as a result of Dr. Whyte, Donna seeing this picture, she told me she was a Zeta, which is our sister. That's our sister organization in the Greek world. And so we are connected. Donna and I are connected through the royal blue and lightning white, if you will.
Right
So,
around 99.
yeah,
Yes.
I knew there was something special about you, Donna, when I met you.
Oh,
So,
so funny. When I saw this picture, I was like, "You're a Sigma." All right, all right.
so then the bottom picture, I worked at the Red Cross. So when I was at Metro Health through a company out of Detroit, I was the training manager for support services. And then when Dr. Boutros came, he wanted everyone to be in-house. And
Mhm.
so I thought I could do well out in the community, but being a little grayer and a little older, I didn't necessarily get hired right away. So I was off for a good period of time. And then I applied for a job at the American Red Cross as a facilities manager. And so retired Admiral Mike Parks hired me to be his facility manager. So I was facility manager for 22 counties in Ohio for the American Red Cross. And then they had an opportunity for a transportation manager, a divisional transportation manager. So I was promoted to that transportation manager. So I covered 16 states of fleet for the Red Cross. I was responsible for 1,100 vehicles, blood mobile buses, blood collection vehicles, the disaster cycle service, IRVs, and other vehicles for the Red Cross.
What a responsibility.
Yeah, and it was great. And so we would do events downtown on 40th at the regional headquarters. And so that lower picture is where we worked along with the fire department and some other emergency service. I think that might have been a Honeywell vehicle. And so we had people come out so they could visit the Red Cross and see what we do. And so that's just a picture of the outside circle area. And then the picture to the right is a picture of when they opened the Carrington House. I think it's called something else now, on the corner of Lee Road and Chagrin. But Mayor Mearns asked me to come over and represent the service department. So that's a picture of Mayor Mearns, I think someone from Carrington, and myself celebrating the 1-year anniversary after they opened that senior care facility there on Lee Road in Chagrin.
I remember when they built it. Yes, a lot more development there, but it anchors Chagrin and Lee.
It does. It does.
Yes. So what do we have up next, John? I want to guess, but I think we'll talk about, I think your family. Oh, no. That's what I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
So the most recent support I have provided the city, this is a copy of my certificate of election. This is actually my second term. So Moreland was kind of less represented, underrepresented in Cuyahoga County Democratic Party, and Lisa Payne Jones, who's the city leader, also a dear friend who graduated, I think, a year before I did at Shaker, called me and asked if I would consider running because I had been a longtime resident in Precinct F. And so I told her I would run. And so the first term, I think I was elected with 98% of the voters electing me. And then this last time, 100%. And so this is just a certificate of election that you get when the county validates and verifies that they have counted and that you are in fact elected to an office. So I serve as the precinct committee person for Precinct F for the city of Shaker Heights. I'm also on the Cuyahoga County Democratic Party Executive Committee. And so I represent our city in the affairs of the party. And I do it because Precinct F is a small precinct. And so I make sure that all of my neighbors get information relative to what's going on. I don't tell people how to vote, but I do make sure that every household gets the information. And as recent as, I believe, last Saturday, I did the 2.5-hour walk to make sure all of my neighbors got information on the vote no on August 8th. And then I made sure that mail-in ballot applications were dropped off at every house in the precinct. So I believe in that work. My dear friend Carmela is also a precinct committee person, so she can tell you about how important it is that we have folks who believe in that work and make sure that our neighbors are informed of what's going on. So still active and still trying to make sure that I have impact where we live here in Moreland.
And it's not that we deliberately had your interview now and there happens to be an election in August, but it is, it just happens that way. But it's so important for people to know this special election is coming up.
Yeah.
It's important, very important. And people have to vote, not only be registered, but actually vote, exercising their right. All right. Thank you. Thank you for your service, and on and on. So I think the next slide, I think, is your family.
Yes.
Yes, you're
All
right.
right. So these are pictures of my my greatest blessing.
How many different things do you do in your life? And also,
so I have so first, this is my beautiful wife, Elaine. I was blessed to meet her 26 years ago at a time in my life where I was searching for completeness. And so she blessed me because I don't have any natural children. She had two daughters, and she blessed me with two beautiful daughters who I was able to raise from early teens. They were preteens. And she gave me the greatest gift that I could have ever got outside of my salvation, which is a family. I had asked God for a family and always wanted to have a family. And so she just accepted me, who I am, this crazy guy that's doing all these different things. And she probably could have had her pick of anybody. So I'm grateful that she picked me. So the pictures on the right are when Elaine and I were recognized at her home church, where I attended with her and found my salvation, and had accepted my call into ministry. And then the picture on the right is actually a picture of Elaine and I at Shaker Heights Community Church, where I pastored for a number of years. Shaker Heights Community Church, when Elaine and I got there, had maybe 20 members. You could lay in the pews. And after 4 years, the congregation grew to over 430.
Oh my goodness.
And we were recognized by the United Church of Christ for church growth. And we really, I just feel like she's a phenomenal woman. And again, I would not be who I am if it were not for my wife, Elaine. So she's soft-spoken, but she's definitely a lioness. And so she has caused me and motivated me to be who I am today. And so I'm grateful for her. So that's my greatest blessing.
Oh my goodness, how wonderful. Is she listening?
She is. She's in tears, but everything that I've spoken is true. And I would not be where I am without my beautiful wife. I thank God for her.
Sure, you're blessed to have each other. I know you're blessed to have each other.
Yeah.
What a blessing. And we'll talk a little bit more about your family. Introduce us to more of your family here.
So on the right is my oldest daughter, Erica. She is just a great joy. She's an entrepreneur. And so that is her family. That's her husband, Michael, who passed from COVID 2 years ago. So they were a young couple, but that is their boys, their sons. That's Kendall. In her lap is Milo, Israel, and then to the right of her husband is Nazara, and we call him Nas. Now, these pictures are when they were a little younger, but I chose it because it was a great family picture, and they were at the African American Museum. And actually, this is the second picture that they took. But he was a wonderful blessing to our family. He was my dear friend, and a great, great husband to my daughter. And then the picture on the right is my youngest daughter. That's my baby girl, Andrea, and her son, DJ, Daniel. And so these girls are my daughters. When they introduce me, they don't introduce me as their stepdad or, something. They call me their dad. And so I'm grateful because these are God-given children who have accepted me as their father. And I am proud of them and their lives and their accomplishments. And so these are both my beautiful girls, I call them.
Beautiful.
I have 3 beautiful girls.
Yes, I understand. I understand. That's wonderful. And you said that, so you all live close together.
Yes.
So you have, your house is a family house. So these are
It's
your
a 3-family house.
Wow,
So
okay.
the attic is finished with a bathroom and a kitchen that could function if Shaker allowed you to cook on the 3rd floor.
Yes.
So our family is close-knit. My wife keeps us all close to the hip. So my oldest daughter, Erica, and her boys live on the 2nd floor and 3rd floor, as we all did. Kendall has the 3rd floor as his suite because he's the college guy, even though he has a dorm room. And then Andrea lives around the corner on Caldwell. And so every Sunday we get together and we have family dinner and we enjoy family and talk. And so it's a blessing because the house that I grew up in, my family has grown up in. And so we're grateful that the family stays close and that my wife continues to, she cooks the big family dinner and she makes sure that we have that time together. So it is a blessing to be able to have family close like this in the same house and around the corner down the street on call.
That your family wants to be that close.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
That is a blessing. That is really a blessing. I mean, I love the family dinners on, and just keeping everybody in connection and influencing everybody. And, thank you, thank you, thank you. Anybody have anything they'd like to share or ask questions? I was thinking in terms of, yes. Anybody want to share any comments or questions? Anybody want to put anything in the chat?
Hey, this is Carmela. Forgive me. I'm on 2 different devices, so I had to figure out where I was on mute and unmute myself.
New Carmela.
I just wanted to say this was really a joy. David, like so many of your guests, Donna, is someone who every time I talk with him, if we talk more than 5 minutes, I'm liable to learn something new about him. So this was just really a joy. And I know, David, if you all didn't get this or know this before, he is a man of service. Anywhere, anytime, even if it's just a kind word, because he senses that you just need that encouragement. That is the kind of friend and neighbor that he is. So we are blessed to have him and his family in the community. And David, you know what? I wanted to share something with you because you and I have a couple of things in common. And one of them is that you are my Navy brother, my shipmate. And it's so funny. I had a similar experience. I had applied to college late, and the only school I really wanted to go to was Central State because it was a HBCU, and I did not hear back from them. So 2 weeks I was in boot camp, 2 maybe 3 weeks, and I had called home just to say hello and found out that my acceptance letter had arrived. So, but you know what? I always say everything happens for a reason. So we were where we were supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It happens for a reason, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'm going to let you know, John chimed in. What is your hidden talent?
Who,
What is
mine?
you? Yes, yes, Mr. Owens. What is your
I,
hidden talent? What is your secret? I mean, you've done so much.
I think I hear my mom and dad saying, I always hear them saying, whatever you want to do, be the best at.
Mm.
And you can do whatever you want to do. And so all my career changes and all the different things that I did, I always made sure I did the best I could do. And as a result of that, I always kind of ascended to positions of responsibility. So I guess the hidden talent, what I would hope people would say is that I'm an encourager.
Mm.
And I try by what I do to encourage other people to be the best at what they do and who they are.
That's wonderful. I'm sure that people get that message. I'm
I
sure
hope.
that.
I
I'm
hope.
just by the example of your life, starting at the age of 9, and you know how it is that your whole life has been a life of service and work and empowering other people. And so, you know, I mean, your family, you know,
Mhm.
and just your spiritual life, you know, it's just expands. It's just your reach is enormous. It's just enormous. Such a pleasure to be able to have a conversation with you.
Thank you, Donna. I will say this. I've always, from the time I was probably in my 20s, I always wanted to know who my mother was. On my birth certificate, the only thing I know about my mother is she came here from Cincinnati. She was 12 years old. I know her name. I don't know the name of my father. And so I have tried to find my mother.
Mhm.
But for whatever reason, I did the ancestry and got nothing from that. So, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I'm an anomaly, I guess, and I'm not supposed to know. And so my hope is that the legacy I leave is one that people will say, even though he didn't know where he came from, he knew where he was going.
Mhm. Oh, my. I'm sure that is your legacy, or that will be your legacy for sure. Your
Uh,
reach is deep and wide. Absolutely. Any other questions, comments?
Donna, this is Earlene Hooper.
Yes, Ms. Hooper.
Uh,
Hello.
Hi, I'm a patient at Cleveland Clinic, but as you know, Sam tries to keep me abreast of what's going on, and there's always so many positive things going on in Shaker. He got here certainly in time enough for me to hear
Oh,
about so many positive things that Mr. Owens has done, and we congratulate you. We moved into Shaker in 1964. So Sam was a little older than you are, but anyway, it was just remarkable to lie here in in the Cleveland Clinic and listen to this beautiful story. Uh, I also want to congratulate John and Kevin and Lee, and certainly you, Donna, for keeping everything going so beautifully in Shaker.
Mhm.
Praise the Lord. I'll stop right here. Praise the Lord.
Mhm.
I hope you are well. We all hope you're well. You know, I of course recognize your voice, and you're always here. And David, if you don't know, Mrs. Hooper was our first guest on Witness to History in August of 2020. So,
It's been that long. It's been that long. Yes, Sam was not going to allow me to miss this one, and I'm very grateful to
oh,
him
nice.
for
Oh,
keeping me abreast of what's going on all the time.
thank goodness.
Thank you.
And thank you. Thank you. And from Carmel again, David, you've seen the community Moreland and Shaker in general go through many changes over the years. What are you most excited about the future of the community? This is from Carmela.
So I think what interests me and what I'm most excited about is what the city is trying to do in the Lee Road corridor.
Mm.
I remember Lee Road in Chagrin, Avalon to 154th, the border, when it was the downtown. I mean, everybody came to that area to either go bowling or go to the Five and Dime, go to Leonello's for a great French dinner. You know, the area was just rich with various kinds of businesses. And for young people, it was a place where there was something to do. There was ice cream and you know, we had the library. And I think I'm excited to see the direction, and I work with that with the fund, the Lee Road Fund, as a member of the community. And so I'm excited to see what we are trying to do with that corridor. And I think the group that is involved, even our economic development department, shame on me for not knowing the young lady's name, but her interest and desire to see development up to Avalon in the current plaza added in with what we're trying to do in Lee Road is exciting for me. And I believe that if we can get Cleveland to partner, if we can get Joe on board, because I work with some folks in Cleveland who have an interest in what we're trying to do. And so I always encourage them to say, get in touch with Joe and tell him he needs to be at the table. And we need to take this not only, you know, Lee Road right by City Hall, Van Aken, but we need to go all the way up to Target. It needs to be seen.
I think Cleveland is connected with the Chagrin Lee development. I mean, the Lee Road development.
I just, when I ask the questions, I don't know what Joe is doing. So my encouragement is that we really bring them to the table when we're even having our discussions, and we have people at their table, so that that development looks the same and works the same. So that's what I'm most excited about. And I'd like to see, especially in the communities that have more renters, I would like the city to do some things to educate our renters so that they feel they are a part of us and have ownership in the properties that they live in. And I think that means we have to figure out ways to provide financial resources for some of these older homes that are occupied by people who don't have necessarily all of the means that some of the folks that live in Upper Shaker Heights. So that's what I'm most excited about. And that's what I'd like to see. And then I know she's asked, which job have I enjoyed more and why? I think pastoring was the job that I really enjoyed. I'd like to be able to help people not only with their material, physical well-being, but also their mental, spiritual well-being. And so I think that's what I really enjoy most. And I do that on my job, even though, you know, I'm a director of environmental services. I feel I'm there at Marymount in one of the few faith-based hospitals because of my faith, and I do more to support not just my department, but other individuals as well. So I'm encouraged by still being able to minister. I actually ministered this morning at a church, and one of the trustees said, I see you're going to be on that Witness to History. He said, I'm going to try to join. So I don't know if Ferris is on, but if he's on, God bless you, brother, for mentioning that you saw that post and that you were going to try to get on.
Yes. Well, if he's not here now, he can catch it through the library. It's recorded. And this is my sister here made a comment. I've never heard of anyone offering so much in one life in so many diverse areas and uplifting every place you've been. How wonderful. These stories are absolutely inspiring. Absolutely. I would think that, you know, I mean, you say you have a lot of jobs and all, but they all feel connected to me. And I would think that, you know, just building on your experience and the breadth of your experience would mean that people would seek you out for. I mean, you did all the ADA and Shaker and all the work that you've done, and it's really just unbelievable. I would venture to say that there's no such word in your vocabulary as retirement.
So I jokingly tell people that I'm gonna work until the day I get off, and then when I get off, I'm just gonna go get in the cast.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there is always something to be done. So, you know, you may retire from a physical job. My goal, I have 3 years to do, and I'll be of the age where I can retire and have full medical benefits for my wife and I, apart from Medicare and Medicaid. And so that's my goal, is to do 3 more years with the clinic, and then hopefully be in some faith-based work, some economic development work. I want to stay in this area. I like this area, even though the cold and snow has its way with me, but I like Northeast Ohio. I like being near the water,
Oh,
and I like everything that we have to offer
Mhm.
in this part of the country. This is home for me.
Absolutely. Thank goodness. Thank goodness. Okay, my sister again says it needs to be a book, also because you're a fantastic storyteller. How you shared all of this with us. Thank you, Diane. That's my sister. Introduce you. That's my sister there.
Oh,
Hear it all.
where's her picture? Let me see your sister. Where is she at?
Yeah, wave again, Diane McIntyre.
Hey, okay. Hey, Diane. Where do you live, Diane? Where does Diane
You're on
live?
mute, Diane.
She's on mute.
You're on
Where does
mute.
she live?
Can you unmute? Where'd you go?
She's
Oh, there you are.
Yes, I live on 140th in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
okay. So right around the corner.
Yes,
Yeah.
I get to come to these because my sister is the host of Witness to History.
Diane's here.
I don't live in Shaker. However, I try never to miss Witness to History because I learned so much. And so, yeah, I'm right around the corner, about 11 blocks away.
Okay. You 140, wasn't there McDonald's on 140?
It was on
143rd.
143rd and Kinsman.
One of the-
Okay. I remember we used to walk down. There was a record store or something down that way back in the 60s. I remember that.
Everything.
There were a lot of things down on Kinsman.
Oh yeah.
Between 140th and I'd say 100.
30.
Yeah.
Because you had the shrimp boat, and
A shrimp boat.
Yes,
that was a schoolmate's parents that owned that shrimp boat.
really?
Yes.
Popular place, the shrimp boat on
Yeah.
130th Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but
They had Hamilton Recreation Center. We used to go swimming.
yes. Well,
It's a story about, we used to ride our bikes places we weren't supposed to, and we rode our bikes down to Hamilton Recreation Center one day, and we had to ride back up to Shaker real quick, Miss Diane, because
yes.
some fellas trying to get our bikes.
Okay, that was after our time, David.
You had to
What
get
was
out.
on
You had to
then?
get out of there.
Yeah.
You had to get out of. Oh wow. That when Hamilton was actually still there,
Yeah.
that's where Donna and I went to school.
Yeah.
Oh.
We were there when the recreation department was built.
When it was built, when
They
that
put the
swimming pool was
pool
built.
there. We were in junior high at that point.
Mhm.
How small a world.
Yes,
How small a world. Isn't that
Absolutely.
something? So
Yeah.
you went to Hamilton.
yes.
Hamilton and Adams, Rick
Rick off.
Yeah,
right.
AJ Rick. Yes.
And our cousins who are older than you, they went to Saint Cecilia.
Oh, yes, they did. Mm-hmm. They went
That was a stalwart back in it. You know, Father Peters and Father Eula and all of them at St. Cecilia's. They had the convent. That was before they built Sutton Place. And they had the convent, I think, was on Sutton. And then,
church.
you know, the rectory was right there, right by the church. But the convent for the nuns was right on Sutton.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about some Shaker history. I had no idea.
Yes, probably our cousins knew all that,
Mm-hmm.
because they went to school back in the 60s,
Yeah.
in the maybe the late 50s even.
Mm-hmm. Right. They went all the way through 8th grade. They went to Holden, actually.
Auburn
Open Dominican on Harvey.
and
Mhm.
Cathedral Latin after St.
Okay.
Cecilia.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
This is a
Yeah,
throw-
in the 60s, they merged. I think the diocese started merging congregations and schools, and we ended up in. So I went to St. Cecilia's through the 4th grade, and then in the 5th grade, we were bused from St. Cecilia's over to St. Mary's Chesterhover on Harvard.
Oh,
And
okay.
so, yeah, and so we went there for the 5th grade, and then 6th grade, I went to Moreland. That's
Oh.
when I started in Shaker School.
Thought about, children going outside of the area,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's an education. This is why we do witness to history. All this has to be documented,
Yeah.
for sure. Oh, wonderful. Yes. Now, is anybody on who's part of your family? Anybody we want to recognize while we're still here?
I see somebody on the iPhone. I don't know if that's my sister-in-law or not. I can't tell. I got these glasses on.
Family or friends
That's
want to
you,
chime in?
Lenora? You're on mute. That's my sister-in-law. Show no.
Oh.
Hey, sweetie, how you doing?
Okay, good. Very good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. This is great. This is great, as always. But this has been a real treat for everybody to be here and to listen to your story. Now, one of these days, David Owens, you and I have to meet each other in person. I guess I know you, I saw you, but we've seen each other on Zoom, and, folks know I'm going to have a movie night Friday night, so maybe you'll come that night.
I'm planning on at least stopping by.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. I'll give you the address. Very good. Well, this was absolutely wonderful. Thank you so, so much for your time and your wonderful story and your wonderful family, your parents, your wife, your children, grandchildren, and the house on Milverton.
Yeah.
The family house.
The family house.
Absolutely. Yeah. What a blessing. What a blessing. Well, I want to thank everybody for being with us. And of course, I am always looking for guests for Witness to History. So here's my promo again. My number, if anybody happens to be online who has not been my guest, even though we've seen how the picture has filled up, many of the people who come on Witness to History have been my guests, but there are plenty more folks in Moreland. And if you know anybody who you would like to, introduce the idea of Witness to History to, please let me know. And, maybe you can, make an introduction for me to, some of our neighbors who I haven't gotten to know. But here's my number and my email address. I always welcome folks to be in touch with me. I would like to share with you that our guest in August, even though Crystal says she's not a new resident of Moreland, she's a relatively new member of our neighborhood network. Crystal Bowden is going to be our guest on August 13th. I think it's the second Sunday. It's the second Sunday in August. So Crystal is going to be our guest. And so that'll be a real treat because, sometimes we talk to people who have been in the neighborhood for a long time. We get a whole new, fresh perspective from folks who have been here for shorter lengths of time. And it'll be a really wonderful conversation with Crystal. I'd like to thank you again, David. Thank you so much.
Yes, I was just typing in the chat. Thank you for having me. And this was certainly an enjoyable time for me and everyone who was able to join. Thank you for giving us some of your time and for listening to my history in Shaker Heights. So I appreciate all of you. Stay safe and please be well.
Yes, thank you. Good night, everybody. Good night.